Hey, Sid.
Yep.
Sid, I got Damian here from Transportation America. This is Sid. He's one of our lead engineers.
Hey, Dan.
So, yeah, he's gonna participate with this. If anything pops in his head, he'll mention it. I'm gonna go ahead and share. Well, actually, you can see me, right? So I don't have to share anything because you'll see the board up here and everything. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so Spraymaster. Vendor invoices and RTA. All right. So we've got about seven locations.
Six locations.
6 locations. And presently, the way this is being run is through Captiva. And but each location is scanning their invoices. And the problem here is that under Captiva, they have only one license. So, and there isn't any sort of integration with their ERP system, which is what's called RTA. In RTA, they have, that's where all the information regarding any orders that are being done to process to the vendors regarding any parts go through RTA. Everyone at this point does create a purchase order. Every location must data enter the invoice information that comes in on that invoice. So invoice number, vendor, invoice date, invoice total, plus all the itemizations, right? They're correct. So what we're thinking doing is just like we have right now with Easy AP on how we can integrate that with what's coming in to the locations and validate that with what's in RTA. So the first thing we're looking at is to validate the invoice numbers. The invoice numbers are there. Make sure that correlates to the vendor. You have the invoice date, and then you have the total. Second is if there's a purchase order, right? We're gonna validate that with RTA as well. Once that is validated and there's a match, so that invoice matches what's in RTA, then that could be automatically set status to approve. If it's not, if there isn't a match, then we set the status to pending, which goes into a workflow where an email goes out to that supervisor who is in owns those invoices. So a location like in Broward, Fort Lauderdale, there is a pending invoice, an email goes out. So he knows that there's something in there for him to check. No longer does he always have to go and check himself. He knows that, boom, we sent him an invoice or an email stating that, vendor, invoice number, yada, please check. Then he can go in there and make any changes. Maybe he has to go back to the vendor, whatever, until it's finally good enough to be submitted as approved. Now, if it's so bad, then he can reject that invoice and maybe have the vendor resend another one if needed to. But so he's got one is approved, pending, rejected. Those will be our statuses. Another one in there that we can have is paid. So once that check is submitted for payment for that invoice, then that status will turn into paid. At this present moment, they're scanning. What we're looking at with Damien is we're looking at least 20% of the vendors who do 80% of the volume to be able to email these invoices. That way we can grab those invoices without each location scanning them and go through the process. So at that point, if it is a total match, that invoice is approved as status and ready for either being paid or waiting for that statement to come in to match it and get paid that way. But either way, it's gonna come out to approve that, then these guys make that decision. So first thing, invoices from vendor come in. All right, either through email
Or scan.
or scan. Okay. At this point, the first phase is each location has the data enter this stuff into RTA.
At this phase, not necessarily. Sometimes the invoices arrive by email and they haven't entered into RTA. That is problem.
So,
But,
we-
wait a minute. If they arrive by email, if they are scanned, it means that they must have entered already into us. They have to. I mean, there is no other way. I mean, this is something we can impose. I mean, you enter the invoice and then scan it so that we could check that the information you entered was correct. If arrived by email, not necessarily they have received it. They might have been receiving this at the same time we are receiving. So the information should not be on, I mean, there's no way the information would be in RTA, but the PO should be on. If we receive an invoice by email, the email should have a PO number.
Yes.
And that PO number is on RTA.
yes, so if it's scanned, if it get, oh, I got it. So let's do this. Let's change this. This is why this is good for us to do.
For everybody, of course.
So invoice vendor. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna do mail. The next one's gonna be email. So this one, location enters into RTA. Okay. And then we scan. This one enters process automatically. So when the email comes in, we're gonna set up an invoice or an email that represents this, like INV Spraymaster at Transportation America, something like that. So that can be email forwarded or email as a CC into that email. Then we go through the process. Then we're going to validate by PO.
PO number, correct.
This one's gonna be validated by invoice number, right?
Correct.
You see that?
Yep.
After you validate it by PO number, you could go into RTA, check that the PO is there, of course, that's validation,
Yep.
and then find out who ordered it. And send an email to them. Because it might be that we are the only one receiving, I mean, there's an email that received the invoice, but the person that actually ordered hasn't received it yet. I could give you the list of it. You can go check the PO number, which is the facility, and then emails the person of that facility that are in charge.
To email to owner, email to,
Parts department.
Parts department?
Yeah, the person that ordered.
yeah, email to ordering,
Person.
okay.
If it's not validated, you can't find the PO, then you have to send it to somebody else. So technically, if we receive an email, it has to have a PO number.
Right.
But if, why if we can't find it?
Then it's gonna be an exception.
And then we have to send it to somebody else. That could be Rudy or me or whoever to check manually. But technically, every single invoice should have a PO number, and that PO number could be looked into RTA to see who was the person and send it an email to them.
So why don't we do this?
Okay.
So if there's no PO,
Mhm.
we're still gonna grab that invoice
Yeah,
and send an email to someone, because we don't know who the owner
Yeah.
of this is,
yeah.
unless the PO tells us well, there's no PO.
There's
so
no, that's the problem.
That's the problem. There's no PO, so we don't know exactly where this is coming. So it's gotta go to
Just some a supervisor, I would say,
supervisor.
yeah, someone that could be me or could be
Yeah.
Rudy. Because that happened.
Rudy
It,
or
it might be the PO is not there, or the PO doesn't exist on our system.
Yeah.
Because they mistype it. So,
so we can do this. We can then take that invoice, set it up as pending, send an email to you
Yeah.
and Rudy.
Yeah.
For you to go look, when you go look into the workflow, because in that workflow, under your login is going to be that invoice. And then at that point, you can decide to forward that to somebody.
Mhm.
Okay, put that into their inbox, or you can reject it. You can do all the things that you need to do with that invoice, because there's no PO. So we can do that.
but there is something else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be that the PO doesn't match the vendor that is sending us the email. That's another problem. In any case, it's not validated and it should go.
Well, we'll have, if there's no PO, we know what vendor it is.
But it might be that the PO number doesn't match the email that is sending you the invoice. Because sometimes it happens, not frequently, but we need to think that this.
So the way this is gonna help us is that email that comes in
Mhm.
from the vendor.
Mhm.
We already know what vendor,
What vendor it is.
what that vendor is, because that's his email
Yeah,
address.
it's email.
Or in the body of, there's gonna have something in there that correlates to him.
Mhm.
So at that point, we know who that vendor is.
then we look at the PO number.
Yes.
But why if the PO number doesn't match the vendor?
Well, then that's gonna be, boom, as an exception,
Okay.
it's gonna go pending. Okay, so that's gonna end up either, well, if there's no PO, then it's gonna end up with
Yeah.
you and
If
Ruth.
no PO, no.
But if there is a PO, but if something doesn't match.
Yeah.
Then it can go then to that supervisor, you know, or not the supervisor, but the owner of that location.
Yeah,
Who
correct.
ordered that.
The order.
Okay, so each location will need the name of each person that deals with this, like
Yeah.
Joanna. so forth. Yeah, all those guys. And then that will be that. So, here is PO number. Yes. Okay. But, if there's no match, there's no match. Meaning that there's no match with the total, there's no match with the PO and the vendor.
No, in this case, the total, no, the match doesn't mean the vendor. But the total, we don't,
At this point.
at this point, we don't know about the total, because the total hasn't been entered into. We know the total, but because we scan the invoice, but we can match with what was entered because it hasn't been entered.
Okay, so no vendor match.
No vendor match, then send it to whoever vendor is on the PO number. But vendor, sorry, buyer, people that purchase. We found a PO. It's coming from Palmetto.
Yeah, so there's a PO,
With the PO number
but there's no vendor
for
match.
facility one.
Yeah.
We found out that it's for facility one.
Yeah.
But the vendor says it is original equipment. So we send it over to the facility one and say, look, we received this PO for this vendor who doesn't match.
Okay.
Check it out.
So who do we send this to?
To the people of the facility. Once we get a PO, we get a facility.
Okay, no match.
Sent to facility.
Email. to-
Facility.
Okay. The facility.
With a note. Match, send email to facility as well. So no vendor match,
Yeah.
email to facility, but with a note.
With a note.
Yeah.
Match. PO to vendor.
PO, yes, and match the vendor,
No.
email to facility as well.
Okay.
But then that's with the whatever information you want to put on that email.
Okay.
Maybe if you read the invoice, then you could say, okay, we received this PO number with this invoice number and this total. Please
Okay.
write it down into RTA.
Okay.
Make sure that it's in properly.
So I'm gonna go here. Say PO yes. Vendor. Yes. Okay,
There's a
then,
match, then
now, if there's a match between those guys, now, the next thing we wanna match is the total.
yeah, but these invoices
It's not in there yet.
ignorant.
So if there is, then when do we,
We send them an email with this invoice
Okay.
attached and ask them to put it onto the system.
okay, email? Facility.
Yeah. For processing.
Instead, I'm thinking this. So there's any way that we can continue monitoring in the RTA table until this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Once, So meaning that POs, yes, vendors, yes, we send an email to the facility to go ahead and enter information
And we do have
to
do a follow-up.
RTA. So once that is, then we can continue to monitor RTA until that has been validated.
Validate.
Okay,
Yep.
so RTA is a SQL database?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep.
So you're thinking like a trigger or something?
Yeah, something like a trigger if there is finally an invoice number that has been entered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once there is an invoice number in RTA and we have our invoice number, because now that we have a PO and a vendor, now we can do the matches.
Mhm.
Now we have an invoice number, we match it to an invoice date. And now we have an invoice total. So email gets sent, right? These guys process it. We set trigger to monitor RTA or invoice number, date, and total. Okay, so if there is a match,
For once, there is much.
yes, then status approved. If no, and that could be anything. If there isn't a match to the, maybe a date or a total, if there's something that doesn't match.
Yeah, we need to go back to send a
So then we send
reminder. Or
email to facility. And then this will be in status in the workflow as pending. Status.
a lot of it.
Yeah, but if we didn't do this,
Yeah.
you know how hard it'd be for us, for all of us? We'd always come up with something else. At least we got this, at least down to writing. So email facility for processing, it finally gets it processed and we're just triggering it till we finally see some sort of a match.
Yeah, but maybe trigger or maybe check out at the end of the day and say, okay, this doesn't match, then send an email. Or you want to trigger when they enter this
Soon as we see something going
on this.
soon as we see an invoice number,
Mhm.
soon as we see an invoice number, then we want to go and try to match it. And we may do this like every whatever,
Yeah, time, yeah.
every, 15 minutes, whatever. Something like that. We'll figure that out. But if that is, then boom, status approved. If not, then email facility that there's no match, whatever. Okay, goes into flow as pending. They have to look at it and decide what to do with it. Okay, who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah.
Is the invoice right? Or is the, what that was entered,
Yeah.
whatever, something that you have to look at and figure it out. Once this is figured out, then this goes into approved. So once this is approved, who do we notify?
Then it goes into a list, and that's the one you check with the statement when it are received. this invoice that's
Yeah.
properly approved should match the statement.
Okay.
Or should be into the statement, in the statement.
But you mentioned that there's times that an invoice may be paid before the statement. I remember you mentioned that.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It might be, but they keep control of each invoice that it was. But this is on, how do you call it, the system? But I mean, as long as we get a list
Okay.
of invoices that are approved,
Okay.
are correct, that are into the system, that's the information we need.
Okay. So this is where otter comes in. Audit, this is all approved, right? Everything's approved. Now, a statement comes in. Most statements coming in are an email.
Yeah.
Okay, we do audit. So we do an audit to make sure that the number of our metadata are from the invoices match that invoice in that statement. If there is, and the whole total of that statement matches the total of what we have,
Mhm.
then it
Yeah,
gets,
that's it.
go get paid.
Yeah, we don't need to. check
So
anything else.
I don't know, maybe this is. We'll have to think about what we want to name this instead of approved.
Or ready to pay or whatever.
Yeah, ready or something like that.
Ready to pay.
Yeah. Ready. Okay, something like that.
Yeah.
And then this comes up and it matches. Then here we go. Yes. Do a match. Okay, status is going to be. Approved. If one invoice is missing, then we need, then whoever does this audit needs to let that facility know that.
Or if the invoice is missing, then the technically the reason should be that either the facility didn't enter into the system or we didn't receive it.
Yes. Yeah,
So
so that means that if it's not there, then somebody at the facility then has to call, get a hold of the vendor saying, we never got this invoice.
Yeah.
Because look at all the validations we're doing with that invoice.
Mhm.
An invoice is coming in through mail or through the location, be scanned or through email. And all of a sudden that statement comes up, you've got a invoice that they popped in there that you guys never got.
Mhm.
So there's no way for them to pay
No,
until that is
probably.
properly.
We haven't got to this branch of.
No, not yet. Not yet. But it's gonna come into here.
Yeah,
It's someplace, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, really, this is still continuing the flow. And I'm thinking that. So right here, right?
Yeah.
At this point, this comes into here.
Yeah.
Right? Because, each location has to enter this stuff into RTA. And this, then. This is where this comes in.
Yeah, but here is trigger when it's done.
Yeah.
Well, this is trigger, yeah.
Same thing.
Because it was already, when you scan it, it's already into
Yeah,
the system.
but the trigger's gonna happen
It's
then,
gonna be happening.
because they scan it, trigger's gonna happen.
Mhm.
They get the information from the invoice, and then now they're matching it with, the invoice number, date and total, and the
Yeah.
vendor.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good spot.
Mhm.
And then it's gonna go through the same process.
Mhm.
So here is because it came through email,
Mhm.
right? And then we have to enter that stuff into RTA,
Mhm.
and then it goes through this process.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But there is if what if it's not validated?
So if it,
Let's say
so
that
let's
you
say the
scan-
invoice, so here, it goes to here. So let's say it doesn't get validated, right? It's gotta be emailed back to the facility stating that this invoice, you know, it's
Okay.
not totally,
Well, no, yeah, if
doesn't
not, doesn't match.
doesn't match.
So
So,
total doesn't match.
right, so this, I think it falls back into here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it just skips this part. Because this part here is that's when they have to enter into RTA. I like it. I think this is our first step.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this. Once we get good at this and you feel comfortable. I think the next phase of this, and we'll look at it, is that if we can eliminate each location to enter this into RTA and have the engine enter that into RTA. Just, not yet, but it might be something to look into down the line.
That would be great, but we need to, RTA is
A monster.
is,
I know, that's the only thing. That's the only thing why we're not
they
doing it.
do a lot of processing. They don't have.
There's a lot of tables in RTA that have to be combined.
And process, every time you enter an information in there, it's processed by the program. It's not a well-designed database with keys and everything that corresponds. It's everything is the software.
Yeah.
The one that do all the processing and do a lot of redundancies, and so we need to be careful if we're gonna manipulate the data over there.
Yeah.
A baby boomer created a RTA.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was long done. No, it was done a long time ago, I guess. The structure of the database evolved and they remain with the product that was working and they live it like that.
But forget it, then we're gonna just use RTA as a validating tool.
Yeah, but I do have a knowledge of where the information is, the
Yeah.
information we need,
Yeah.
where the PO number you can find,
Right.
where the
Invoice number is gonna.
how to get the aggregation to get and I could give you this information
Yeah.
to you. I have even created views.
Yeah.
So, and if I need to create another one, I would do it. But everything is basically.
You know what, if you just let us know what tables are in,
Mhm.
then we can create whatever programs or whatever that we need to do the validation, but it definitely will help.
But if you want to, I could give you they send, the one that is closer to a good information. There is a data dictionary, but it's crazy.
No, you're the dictionary.
No, but there is, there is, access database that they send us as information. And that the access, that database have the relationship between some of the tables.
So they have an access database?
Yeah, but just for information. It's
Yeah.
not that they use.
It's like a report thing.
Yeah, it's something that you use as a reference.
Yeah.
So when you want to look into how the table, not all the tables, are
Yeah.
interconnected, there you go to a diagram and then you
See the
see
diagram, yeah.
it's a diagram. That's the only thing that you can use it is for the diagram, just to get to see how the tables are interconnected. Because if you go into the SQL database, you won't. I mean, it's completely difficult. It's very difficult to know where the table.
No, I know, we've seen crazy databases that are all over the place.
Yeah. I studied that. So when I first look into that database, I say, well, that's a mess.
Yeah.
It's everything that we were taught is that what they're doing. Everything we're told to do, that's what they're doing. But it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And so if you need, I could send you this access.
What I'm gonna
as a
do,
reference.
what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get together with Sid. And we're gonna make a readable flow,
Okay,
because, you know,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just, you know, this is,
send me a.
and then I'm gonna send it to you. And
Yeah.
that's gonna be, this will be part of the statement of work that I can finally.
Yeah.
You know, because really, this is our blueprint, you know,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're working off of.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is the first approach to the textbook.
exactly.
It's the first approach. Maybe there will be some tweaks because it might be
Absolutely.
something we miss.
We're missing something.
And we need to do this a way or the other, then yeah, it's the first approach.
What I like about this is it's gonna reduce their scanning. Because most of the volume will come through email.
Mhm.
And so there's less. Yeah, less paper being processed.
But still, there will be a lot of scanning anyway.
I know. But at least this will be better, and the validation's gonna be better.
Mhm.
Because they've already entered the invoice information into
Yeah,
RTA.
yeah.
So the validation is gonna be much better than what we have right now.
Yeah.
But if this part though, the big boys.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I think that's gonna be helpful. a lot.
I'm gonna try. I have in contact with one of the biggest vendor. I already sent them the request.
Okay.
Send us the invoices, but